Okay.
So you just said burn some fat, which is interesting because fat is a protection need. So maybe for you and your parents, it's, I have to fly under the radar, I have to sneak to do something, because if not, they will fail to protect me. I don't know. That's what you work with a client. So I asked a gentleman downstairs when he makes this comment, and I happen to know, this is where getting the intake is gonna help you, what they do for a living, where they live, you know, what their story is, the mother, father, child triad, what's in the bucket, whatever information you have pre-session, okay? And this guy is not my client, he's a colleague, but because I'm who I am, I ask the questions, because that's my brain. Exactly, everyone and everything in the world is a client. So I asked him, and he happens to be a military man. When you hear military, what need?
Safety.
Safety. It's a fight or flight, it's a safety and security need. That's just immediately where you go. So I asked him, where did you learn that it was dangerous to be seen? Where did you learn that it was dangerous to be the center of attention? And he's like, wow, something to think about. So why did I use the word danger? I could have used any other word, but why did I say, where did you learn that it was dangerous? Why did I choose that word?
Because it would link it automatically with what he thinks that danger is from his experience. So
But
he
what
might link
need does it link to?
safety.
Exactly, it links to safety and security. And I wanted to get talking about safety and security. And there's something hidden. I have to stay under the radar. I can't fly above. So you start making hypotheses. You know what a hypothesis is? You remember what a hypothesis is from the scientific method? You're just making a guess. That's all we're doing in counseling. We're just giving the client a maybe it could be this. Have you thought of this? That's the importance of asking a question rather than being in an exchange with a client that's about you telling. They get to discover. That guy, I may never know, but I planted a seed this morning. So I started asking I made some hypotheses. So I went down the 4 levels of the subconscious, which are what? How does the subconscious develop? First is
conception,
conception,
pregnancy, birth, and 0 to 7.
pregnancy, birth, and 0 to 7. So then I went and I asked him a question, or I made a hypothesis linked to these. What could be a hypothesis? What would have been dangerous during conception? What could the parents have been doing?
Sneaking out?
Sneaking out to have sex. Absolutely. Just a guess. We don't know. Why do we want to give a client the hypothesis? Why do we want to give them a sample scenario?
To get them talking?
To get them talking, to get them thinking. Because every single client thing you're going to be here is going to make a link, a synapse, to the truth of their subconscious. Whatever they say, and I think I might have shared this story with you. I used to go to this tarot reader many, many years ago. She's dead now. And the lady...
That's romantic.
Isn't that funny how she has to include that she's dead now?
She's dead now. I loved this woman. And back then I didn't do this kind of work, so I didn't really understand. But then once I started doing this kind of work, I understood what she was doing. She had no education. She was una campesina from Cuba. This wasn't someone who it was just a natural thing she learned in her profession as a tarot reader. And she would have you cut the deck, and she would throw 3 cards, and she would say, there's this, there's this, there's this. Dime. So she would give you a thematic that showed up, and say, you tell me. And so I would say, oh, well, it sounds to me that it could be related to this. No, that's not it, because whatever her cards were telling her. Or it could be that it could relate to this. Yes, now we're on to something. And then she would throw more cards and get information about that. That's what we are doing with this line of questioning. We're basically throwing the cards and saying, tell me, where is it dangerous? Could your parents, as an example, snuck around when they were conceiving you to have sex? That planted a seed. What could have happened in pregnancy?
Miscarriage,
Well, the baby was born because the guy exists.
danger of abortion or.
Okay, there could have been definitely, or even not only fear of abortion, let's say that they were married and the parents had had a previous child that they had, I didn't ask that question, but that's absolutely valid. So a miscarriage, an abortion, what else? What do sometimes, if you sneak around having sex, what
A
happens?
hidden pregnancy.
A hidden pregnancy. You said violence,
Mhm.
a violent pregnancy. We know that domestic violence shoots up when people are
Running
pregnant.
away, because they're pregnant, so they have to run away. That's
Okay.
under the radar, because they have to be hidden.
Okay, so this would be something like running away. We said domestic violence increases during pregnancy. Perfect. What about birth? What about the actual time of birth? What's a hypothesis?
The umbilical cord, you could have the umbilical cord.
Okay, so there's a fear of death through the cord. What would it serve a baby to not be seen? Think of the monitor.
Adoption.
The
No,
sex-
like when they do the sonogram, they're looking for the
The
baby.
sex, the gender, or the heartbeat?
Okay.
The heartbeat?
Could be, these are just hypotheses. They weren't mine, but they're valid.
The heartbeat, I
The
don't know.
gender,
Sometimes they.
is
can
the
have-
baby hiding behind something and doesn't want to be seen in the actual monitor? That was what I thought of. What could happen?
Sometimes the
I-
heartbeat, sometimes you cannot hear the heartbeat
Mhm.
because the baby's just weird and the position is weird. So you
Okay,
cannot
so a
hear it.
position, trying to hide, not be seen.
He also said he didn't know his biological father.
Right, well, that's gonna be the 0 to 7.
Ah.
That's finally when we get a part of the story. There, your client has to make a connection. So as of this, nothing clicked. He obviously felt very uncomfortable talking about the sex life of the parents. He got a little nervous, his body language, so there's some sexual things there, obvious. He didn't know anything about per se, or didn't jump in to say, oh yeah, my pregnancy. He didn't talk about the birth, he didn't mention anything, so I'm just letting him, but he has to know something 0 to 7. And he says, my birth dad was kept a secret.
Someone's checking you out.
Your friends.
Hi, come in after at the break. Did you guys finish your final?
No, well,
I
yeah,
did, I
I
did.
did.
Oh,
we
okay.
did.
You're gonna sing in class? Hi, Mama. That's so hard.
No,
It's okay. You're little, but you're tough.
no, it is about my child though.
Exactly,
It is
it's about your
about-
child. We haven't gotten there yet, but if you, after you finish your test, if you
I
want to come in.
have a boyfriend, and we didn't even have to have sex for him to ask me out.
Oh my God, talk about progress. Now that's not that you didn't have to,
And I
that's
felt-
you changing
Yes,
the
and I
norms.
felt like I was in an ABC movie because he asked me while we were laying in bed. He whispered in my ear.
Oh my God, that is so cute.
Yeah.
Congratulations, that's you changing the
Yes,
script.
Good for
That's
you,
you.
Paula.
But we had sex like 2 nights
That's
ago.
fine, really, enjoy
All
it.
right, bye.
You just got
At 0 to 7, I said, so what happened at 0 to 7? And immediately, he's like, I didn't know my birth dad. My stepfather raised me. He didn't even know that that wasn't his dad. There's a
Yeah, he
secret.
wasn't told until later.
He wasn't told. So do we have a secret?
Yes.
We have a secret. And that was how he made the connection And I said, where was that dangerous? And I said to him, was your birth dad dangerous? Was he a violent man? Oh, I don't think so, I don't know. This was 5 minutes. We have a theme, whole session. If you listen and if you go to the steps and you ask what need is speaking, it's not that difficult. But you have to listen to hear what the person isn't saying behind what they're saying. And that's our job. So what happened with Nellie's that you said that Ms. Rapace was talking about listening?
Oh, guys, we're gonna go there.
And then I want to go into,
Okay, real fast. So, I have this person in my life, which was in my life for 2 years now. It's been gone for like 2 months. Now he's back.
this is a significant other?
Yes.
Okay.
The 21, find the love of my life every 7 years.
Okay.
Him. We were talking how he got some issues to solve on his own, saying going back to their parents, you know, what they did, their story. And he's kind of just transferring those fears into himself and his relationship.
And you had something on the board about divorce patterns.
That's the assignment for this week, is, it has to do with divorce. And we went over chapter 12, and they gave them handouts. And that's how we kind of started going into it, because one of the questions is, do you know anyone in your family, immediate or extended, that has been through a divorce? And so,
We started talking
We
how
started
it relates
talking.
to us.
Okay.
And I said, well, me personally, it relates because of my parents' story. But my significant other also can relate, you know, and their story is a little bit more telenovela kind of way, because my parents are just boring.
Okay. We think our parents are boring, but the trauma that it causes, it's not that boring. I used to think I had the most normal childhood. That's how fooled I was. So just FYI, go ahead.
That's true.
And
Anyway,
remember,
long story
everyone's
short,
a mirror, step 2. So if he has telenovela, you have telenovela.
we were talking about how I needed to think if that's, you know, put in a piece of paper, pros and cons. And
oh,
stuff.
I'm sorry, yeah, let's refresh that. Because when we talked about commitment, Nellie said that her boyfriend does not believe in the piece of paper.
Yeah, that saying.
But
shouldn't
I
change
was
how I
asking
feel
her
about you.
how she feels about it, and her words were saying, oh, it doesn't matter, but then we heard other things come up that makes it sound like it does matter to her.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought that up because I want to talk about something called territory. I've had a lot of time to write and journal while I was in bed rest. So we'll link that after, but I'm just going to make a note so I don't forget, and I'll tell you a myth. Go
Well,
ahead.
Now my issue is thinking, going back to the whole, okay, that paper, even if he does decide to, you know, because he's scared that because of my age and the age difference, I'm gonna change my mind about it later. Like he's gonna get a commitment and be with me for the rest of his life, but when he gets older, I'll be like, bye, now I wanna go clubbing and you're too old to go clubbing.
Okay, so let's stop there for a moment. We have a client, she's sharing the story, we're hearing an unmet need. Okay, even though she's speaking about the boyfriend, the client is always speaking about themselves. So have you guys ever heard, oh, I have a friend that, we do that unknowingly in our conversations. This is,
and me.
right, it is all about us. So there's a commitment issue there. There's what you mentioned about the piece of paper. There's something about being young and youthful and leaving your youth. Where did you learn, or who, mother or father, left their youth as a result of getting married? Or where in your family? Or do you see how I asked a question I asked a question based on the information the client said. I know nothing about this, I was not here. But there's somewhere that someone lost their youth, where someone lost an opportunity to go clubbing, partying, being a kid, because they got hitched at a young age. There's gotta be a story. You find the story.
Do you remember what I pointed out? Because I'm sorry, my memory is pretty shot. Remember when I pointed out what you had said about I can't? Do you remember? And I pointed that out. I can't. What was that I pointed out? Does anybody remember that?
It was something with the butt. When I was chewing the chips, it was something that she said with the butt. And then you caught it and you went,
Right.
Like a
She
justification.
said something like,
I think you guys are talking about the religious part.
Is
Which
it-
that
Was that
like
what it
the
was?
main-
Was it?
oh, because she said, I don't care if he's not a Jehovah's Witness because
That
he
was one
said
of the- I don't
something.
know.
That was one of them. And then she said she didn't care, but then she said, but that's how I grew up. That's where the but was.
Yeah.
It was an incongruence. Remember, I had pointed out the
Basically, he
example.
doesn't believe in it. He believes that the greatest thing is the universe. And I said, okay, well, for you is that, for me it's God. And I don't judge you. You don't judge me. I don't tell you change your mind because you're wrong, because God is the only God there is, my God, and there's no such thing as the universe. So don't do the same to me. Don't try to change my mind about how I grew up and what I decided to continue to believe in after I, knew the whole truth and was able to make my own decision, because that's what makes me safe. If me thinking of God and there is a God with me at all times makes me safe and have a peace of mind, let me be. Just be happy for me. And he was like, oh, okay, you're right, I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay, so that's a valid point, and we talked about this a little bit before, and I don't know if it was this particular partner, but we talked about, let's define, and we wrote it out on the board, and we realized that you were saying the same thing. And I said to you, this is my theory and your theory, and we realized that we were basically saying the same thing, we just named it different. And what is this that Shakespeare, was it Shakespeare who said a rose is still a rose by any other name?
Mhm.
So that's separate, we can get to that after, but let's finish with this.
Okay.
So where in your family did you learn, or who has a story, or where is there something that you learned, that you should live your life to the fullest?
My grandmother, my
Okay.
oldest aunt, my mom,
They all gave up their life?
they all gave up what's normal for a teenager or like a young adult to go partying and drinking and doing that, because my mom had me when she was in school, and but still, after
She had you at what age?
20.
Okay, and you are?
23.
Okay, so we see here a pattern. Mom had her young. Not that it's terribly young, she was in Cuba, right? I
That's
mean,
pretty old.
right.
Because my
pretty-
aunt had, which is the main one, she had her first son when she was like, I think it was between 14 and 16, I'm not sure. But I
Okay,
think
so
it was
that's young.
16. And she had to get married. She didn't even love the guy, but she had to get married because
She had to get married because she got pregnant.
And after that, she never learned how to ride a bike. She never learned how to do anything other than cook for your husband, clean the house for your husband, do everything for your husband. And I'm okay with that. And I was until this happened, and now I'm like, am I ready for that? What
Is he asking or proposing marriage?
He gave me a promise ring like a year ago, and I don't know, like I said, he doesn't believe in that whole marriage thing, but he
Right.
does
The
believe in like
traditional
long-term
marriage, right.
relationship. Yeah, he does believe in having. He has said that he wants kids with me, and he even said to me, even if we don't end up together, I want you to be the mother of my kids, because I know you're gonna be an amazing mother. No matter if tomorrow we're not together, I don't care. I want you to be the
You
mother.
also said something about how you were worried about his past
Yeah.
long-term relationship.
Okay, so first let's speak, and remember, it's never about the other person. It's about her. She's worried about her. She's worried about her history. She's worried about her past relationships. It's not about the guy.
Right.
It's her commitment, because there is a danger, there is a fear. What need is she speaking from? When she says,
Security, protection, love.
okay, well, we have them all.
Well,
We have all unmet
what
needs.
does commitment mean? What kind of
Yeah,
need
what
would that?
need?
What is commitment?
Security.
What else?
Guys, you're the therapists. She's saying in so many words that if she commits at 23 to this guy who I take is older, that she's going to basically miss out on her youth. What need is speaking?
Validation.
Wouldn't it be validation?
It could be validation. I hear validation and I hear love. Love, remember, love connection. That there's other people that she may miss out connecting with, whether they're club goers, whether they're colleagues in class, whether it's going away to school, whether it's taking a girl's vacation. I don't know anything about this guy. I don't know if he's possessive or whatever. These are hypotheses. So that's all we're doing. We're taking what we assume to be an unmet need. We know that all four exist. And this one to me feels more about loving connection and then some validation because you're young. And one of the things that happens when we're young is that we make decisions for our education, for our career, that later on form us into who we're going to become.
Yeah.
And if she's going to become, in a box, a mother and a wife, then where's the identity of Nellie?
It's gonna be hidden.
It's not going to be there, exactly. It's
Yeah,
going to
once
be
you
not
raise-
validated.
Yeah.
You as an individual, forget you as a mother, forget you as a spouse. That's the other speaking. You hear the other. The other kid, the other is the husband. But what about her? So I'm hearing validation and I'm hearing connection with other younger people that is coming up. It's just a hypothesis. No one is going to say, I am not going to be in your consultation practice going, wrong. I want you to think. And if you want to start with protection, maybe she does want protection. Maybe she doesn't want this older person. Maybe he's more financially secure. We know that she had a $5 stroller that was destroyed and they didn't have any money in Cuba. We know that there's some protection issues because protection always has to do with money. Pick a need, any need, I don't care. But make a hypothesis around it. Make an educated guess so that the client can have, like that tarot reader, tell me that it triggers something so that they have something to share. Now, she's someone who shares openly, but most people are not like that. She's an open book.
So you have to pick at those little
Right.
things that come up. And you have, that's why I
You have
kept
to
saying,
probe and force it.
I'm sorry, we were all saying how we were sorry that I hadn't put the camera on because it was a pretty good conversation. But we kept picking because I wanted to teach them about listening because things were not matching up, what she was saying. So I'm curious to hear, Nellie, you said that we impacted you, that you started thinking.
Well, I'm not like a club person, which I tell him that like every time he brings it up, like, oh, you know, you're still so young, you might want to go out and stuff. Like, I have no friends. I don't go out now that I'm single. You think I'm gonna? That was, you know, when we started. We were friends first, so.
Go ahead.
And it was like I don't have friends now. Why would I go out clubbing when I'm older? But then I think about it, I was like, okay, maybe when I'm older I do get friends. I thought, okay, let's go clubbing. But he's not, you know, he's not controlling or anything. So I know he would like, yeah, girl, like go have fun. But my biggest worry is, you know, meeting other new guys and
Connection.
cheating. And that's my biggest fear, cheating from both sides. especially from him, since he has a history of doing that.
He has a history of
Oh,
cheating.
this didn't come up yesterday.
He has a history of
Just didn't catch
cheating, right? You just said that?
it. Yeah, he doesn't leave one relationship until he has another.
Well, that, you did say that, but that,
You did say
to me, that didn't come up as cheating. That came up as,
Yeah.
finish one, go to the next, finish on, which,
And
That
he
is someone who
doesn't
can't be
finish
alone.
one relationship
Exactly.
to go to another.
Okay.
Oh.
Who cheats, mom or dad?
Dad.
Okay, so he's dad, meaning.
well, you didn't get the history. I didn't get to tell you. Can you tell us a little bit about his father, what happened there?
Him and his mom were in Cuba. His dad came here. His dad got a younger girl pregnant. Then they found out when they got here.
Younger girl,
And
we're seeing the
he was
themes.
10 and he told his
He
mother
was
that
only 10 and
he
he
doesn't want-
was telling her mom, leave his ass. Because he cheated on you. He cheated on us. You know, he doesn't obviously love us. Like,
And he became his dad.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, but you said that the cheater is your dad.
No, his dad.
No, his dad.
No, but I asked you, who cheated, mother or father? And
Oh,
you said
me?
father.
Me?
Yeah.
On my family?
Uh-huh.
Not that I know of. I hope not.
Hey,
I'll be cutting some throats today.
Oh my.
okay, you did not attract a cheater with a father who cheats because there's no cheating in your family. You have got to understand step 2. Everything is a mirror. It may not be your mother and father that's the cheater. It may be you that's the cheater. But you got that somewhere in the bad buckets.
I know my dad
Don't-
is flirtatious.
Okay,
But
perfect. And I was just gonna say, do not try to find word for word. I gave you my example. I attract addicts. I am not an addict. My mother and my father are not addicts. Why do I attract addicts? Because of the planet Neptune. That happens to rule addictions, that happens to rule cults. Neptune. So I'm not attracting addicts because there's a, who's the addict, mother or father? We have to think more globally. Okay, let's make that very clear. The cheater is an archetype. It doesn't mean you have to have penetration. Flirtatious is a cheater.
Thinking about it.
Okay, what was that?
Thinking about it.
Just thinking about it means you did it.
that makes fantasy.
So, who's the cheater? Mother or father?
In this
Yours.
case would be both.
Both of your parents. So she's
They're
got it.
very flirtatious.
Okay, so they have cheating in the bad buckets. Remember the bad buckets. The client does not like that part about themselves. There is a judgment. Judgment. What is the judgment, Nellie, about cheating? And she just said it a minute
You just
ago.
said it.
Someone cheated? Oh,
It's
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
disrespectful. And
Okay.
hurting.
Disrespectful and what?
And hurting.
Hurtful?
Yeah.
Where are you disrespectful and hurtful to yourself? Where do you cheat on yourself? Where do you
Well-
flirt with ideas, but at the end you end up disrespecting yourself and hurting yourself?
Something comes to mind.
Okay,
Um,
so we made a synapse. I asked a question. The client gives you an answer. You don't know, but you know that there's some truth there. Tell me.
I would say I'm friends with all of my exes, even if they did shit to me. And I find that disrespectful to myself in a sense of, you let me down. I was great to you, but you let me down. But I'm still here for you, and every time you call or text, I answer because I have this like thing. Oh my God, I cannot answer. I cannot like text back.
I can't be the good girl. I can't be mean. Oh, honey, you are looking at the goodest of the goodest, and it's the worst of the worst.
I know.
The good girl bullshit sucks.
Even if I try to just as simple as unfriend them on Facebook. I can't. And I wish I could, because I feel like that's
Listen to
dark-
her language. I. Did we move her in from a commitment issue to the boyfriend's father that cheats